Good morning to the risk management fraternity. My name is Christopher Palm. I'm the Chief Risk Advisor at IRMSA. And we thought it appropriate to call together a roundtable for all the Chief Risk Advisors and heads of risk for a high-level roundtable session to discuss and share challenges and lessons learned from rolling out their business continuity management plans in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think also, more importantly, was now that we are all consumed with what lie immediately ahead of us, what are those risks and opportunities that we should be looking out for and placing on our radar between now and when life returns to normal, whenever that may be and whatever normal and the shape and form it may take on. Let me just say thank you to LexisNexis for making this video possible. And we are going to hear at the back end of this video, we're going to hear from Greg Brown, understanding LexisNexis' role in this pandemic and the way that they are responding to this pandemic and the resources that they have to offer. We had about 12 of our leading company CROs share their learnings from a strategy, risk and resilience perspective. And what we would like to cover and share with you today. So what have we missed? Or maybe not. Maybe we haven't missed this. What are the opportunities to be had? Lockdown, what are the next risks that we should be looking out for and be ready to respond to? And lockdown, what are the next opportunities that we need to consider, identify and work into our strategies, our risk and our resilience? So let's start off with the big misses or not. Question, when did you start your BCM rollout? Was that in January, February, when we saw this taking on a global format? Or was it that one very special Sunday evening after which everybody sort of got direction and started acting upon this? Very crucial question, because that will tell you about your organization's risk maturity, will tell you about the risk readiness to deal with business continuity management. As a matter of fact, it'll tell you whether or not your organization is taking risk seriously and understood this pandemic even before it became one. Second point that I would like to raise, and this was raised unanimously across the round table, was the whole idea about having had or having done a business impact analysis. The first point that came out there was that a business impact analysis is not an event. It's something that happens regularly. It's something that happens across processes, products, and services. It's something where we need to understand which are the things that are critical to the survival of our organization and which are the things that, like in a situation like we are now, we can do without. Also looking at people. What are our critical resources versus what are important people versus what are non-essential skills that we have in our organization. Technology, something that I thought became quite a big surprise in as far as not just the macro platform, not just the sort of cyber space, the server space, the information technology management and strategy space, but the space wherein we wanted our staff to be able to connect remotely, work remotely, and by doing so, we believe we created some additional risk in as far as having the right technology available, the right connectivity available, and more importantly, the update of software on these remote technologies that we've then distributed to be able to connect remotely to our servers. And we'll speak a little bit about that later. The roundtable also spoke about business impact analysis on our community, our immediate community, and the social impact that something like this would have, and the roles and responsibilities that our organizations have in this regard. So, business impact analysis, were you on board? Have you done it? Was it updated? And could you rely on the completeness, the validity, and the accuracy of the information to kick off your business continuity management plans? Then the table identified something that we believed and realized as a think tank was really critical in as far as understanding the whole Swiss cheese analogy. Swiss cheese having a lot of holes in them, And if you have a couple of slices of Swiss cheese, it'll be quite difficult to put through a rod without touching cheese. However, once in a lifetime, you'll have the cheese align to the extent that the rod would seamlessly pass through all the holes. Now, have we considered not just the pandemic, but several other risks materializing at the same time? For example, banking, cyber attacks. Well, let me spend time on banking. Imagine we lose the banking platforms to be able to pay salaries, to be paying our debtors, our creditors, etc. Cyber attacks. We're vulnerable to cyber attacks. This happens in conjunction to what we're dealing with as far as the pandemic is concerned. We have a problem with Eskom and electricity supply, water supply at the same time. We have a failure in our major network service providers. And together with that, we face social unrest and crime. So this whole idea of not just focusing on the pandemic as an isolated possibility, but also similar events occurring and materializing at the same time. Question posed by the panel there is we should be ready to be able to respond to the inverted bracket Swiss cheese analogy as well in this period. So did we miss this? Are you ready to be able to respond to this? Good question. It needs revision. Basic business risk management was one thing that also were raised by the panel, talking about the ability to communicate with staff, having the staff communication plans in place, connectivity of staff. We spoke about this a little bit earlier, having updated software and virus protection on machines that we are now connecting up to our servers remotely. Have we opened portals for cyber attacks? Are we vulnerable in that space? Have we thought about that? Is our staff skilled to work remotely? Do they have this experience? Are they capable? And do we understand the psychology behind having people work in their private environment, understanding when to start, what to deliver, etc. And which leads on a point that 2 or 3 of the panel members made. And you'll only test the effectiveness of your performance management and whether or not you've actually compacted the right deliverables will become evident in this time. Then more basic operational risks like your servers, your sprinklers, your fridges. Nobody's there, nobody's at the office. Will these be maintained, and how will they be maintained? Will they be operational, and have we thought about those? And then raised in the face of a new wave of crime, a new type of crime, have we thought about putting all our people back in their private dwellings and understanding what new threats may arise, not just for them, but also for our businesses that are now unattended? For example, we've read about the door-to-door testing, people presenting themselves as from the Department of Health, and they're doing door-to-door testing, gain access to properties, and so on and so on. It warrants some thinking to see, so what are these new developments and how do we respond to these risks quickly and effectively? Looking at legislation and regulation and doing the business impact analysis, did we consider all the laws and the regulation that are applicable to us in doing our business, but also in the lockdowns time? Are they enabling us to work remotely and to work effectively, or are they becoming hurdles or disablers? We have linked access to real news under legislation and regulation because false or fake news have actually become a criminal offense. So access to real news, what is the role that we play in there, and making this available to everyone so that we're sure that we are dealing with the right information and we're making decisions on the right information that's been presented to us. Insurance cover, interestingly highlighted by the panel in saying that if you don't have insurance cover for the loss of income, etc., by now, the chances are you will not have such cover because it's been removed from the bouquet of cover. So if you have it, you're going to have to look at the bespoke policy wording, make sure you understand it and that you've clarified it so that you have a very clear understanding whether or not you are covered. If you are, great. If you're not, well, cover will not be available for you. And then also get yourself ready for this interpretation of your bespoke wording should it end up in court. Operational resilience, it's proven to be very doable. It seems that South Africa, true to form, is very resilient in as far as having implemented the easy things, the immediate things, and to be able to respond to it within the time frame given by the presidential announcement. However, what has come to the fore is that the longer term response and the readiness of organizations are now being challenged. Thinking about strategy 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead. So what if the 18th of April becomes the 31st of May, or 1 May becomes the 30th of September, etc., etc. So what are those strategies that we need to put in place, and how are we going to achieve that? How will we keep the momentum as far as that is concerned? So strategy, what are the risks, and then understanding the resilience required to work out through this pandemic lockdown. Technology, we've said a lot about this. The point that we need to just make again is that how up-to-date are your software versions on the machines that you're allowing to connect remotely to your servers. This is exactly the window of opportunity that cyber hackers are looking for to gain access to our servers. Understand that your organization may now be vulnerable because of this if you are not on top of that. Moving away from the risks that we may have missed and the activities that we may have not done as we should have, let's look at this whole idea about that the risk is actually materialized. The pandemic is here with us. It's happened. So never waste a good crisis. What are the opportunities that we see? Again, this is limited to what was shared at the roundtable. There may be many, many more out there, but the first was that we are now really being challenged to roll out the fourth industrial revolution, even faster and wider than we would have planned in any case. We are now forced to put speed to it, to put effort to it, and to make it effective. We've seen that there are much better use of our existing technology. There's an uptake of new technology, new applications are being developed on the drop of a hat, thought processes and creativity and innovation. Staff are becoming very innovative and come up with good ideas. They're challenging paradigms. So great opportunity in the face of this pandemic. Social responsibility and upliftment. Lots of companies, lots of families, as you would have read, are coming to the fore and playing their role in social upliftment and their social responsibility. So maybe from an organizational perspective, what are those opportunities that you can present to your leadership in as far as that role your organization can play? Upgrading of risk management. I love this one. Can't remember who around the table shared this, but risk management was always a grudge purchase. And I think now with this pandemic, we've got a great platform to sell the value of risk management, the support we played in rolling out business continuity management plans and moving forward, is to say you've now seen the value of this and we need more of your support and we need more resources to make available so that we can do a more effective job. Lockdown. So what's next? Let's look at the risks. Some of the risks that may come your way. And we spoke about this before. Go back to your risk profile. Consider your high impact, low likelihood risks. Consider them in the face of lockdown. Focusing on banking, electricity, water, and communication networks. And ask yourself, how has the risk profile changed given what's happening at the moment? And that talks very closely to bullet number 2 that says, a lockdown exacerbates any other disaster. So the fact that we now have a lockdown, your access to security services, your access to specialist functions, consulting functions to assist in addressing some of your major concerns will be limited. And therefore, the consequence and the likelihood of certain risks take on a whole new dimension. And that should be reviewed and that should be communicated with your exco and your board. Know your vulnerability with regard to cyber attacks and respond with priority. We've spoken about that a bit. There are many, many other more risks that you should be thinking about, but these are the 4 that we thought as a roundtable to share with you. The last one, very personal one, if one considers the sharing, was that lots and lots of people are being impacted in as far as their pensions are concerned. The recommendation is not to be panicking in this time, and not to do irrational or not to make irrational decisions when it comes to your pension, calling your pension up or selling off your investments, etc., etc. Looking at the opportunities during lockdown, well, there's going to be some opportunity for us to push for tax exemption structures. If we are going to contribute to social investment, social upliftment, if we are going to contribute to of the solidarity funds, maybe there will be some tax exemptions. So very good opportunity there to pursue. Social impact support, obviously from a social and a corporate investment point of view, there's an upside risk. A very good example was shared by one of the panel members, one of the roundtable members, where boreholes were opened up for the communities to come and collect water and use the water. Solidarity funds, for example. So grand opportunity here to use this to get your brand and your reputation and just really your social responsibility out there. We've spoken about the 4th Industrial Revolution. Well, you're going to have to embrace it, and you're going to like it or not, but it's going to make sure that you can respond effectively moving into the future. We have opportunities to learn, and we're learning about true resilience now. This has forced us to understand not just strategy, not just risk, but strategy, risk, and resilience, and we're learning this lesson. I always used to say that you don't learn when the going is good. You learn when the going is tough, especially about risk management. Then there's something popping out, and that is the crisis is forcing innovation and creativity, and it allows for your staff and for your organization's maturity and culture to come to the fore and to show it the true colors of your skill and your competence in your organization. And then one thing that we took for granted, we thought you can work from home. The problem is we did that now and again. Now we're going to have to do it for almost 3 months. So to learn to work from home, that was a grand opportunity, and we are developing that skill as we move forward. Looking at the emerging risks, things to be on the lookout, to put on your emerging risk radar and share with your exco and your board. The think tank certainly believes that there will be paradigms that will be challenged from this new learnings, and we labeled the pandemic learnings as a result of the lockdown. So the need for office space, for example, the need for working hours or office-bound working hours, understanding what is critical, what is important, and what is non-essential, especially when it comes to people and services. Other daily paradigms will also be challenged: travel, education, employment, unemployment, physical versus virtual communication with staff, clients, and meetings, implications on salaries, leave, labor practices, and labor laws will now be tested, and the importance of the role of small, medium, and micro enterprises will come to the fore. Social investment and community support, we've discussed this a bit. And then there's the downside that we need to be looking out for, and that is where staff find it extremely difficult to understand when it's the end of day, to manage time in a private or in a non-working environment. There are physical and psychological impacts that we should be aware of. And then constant communication and reviewing of existing and refreshed business continuity plans. Moving on, I would like to just thank again Greg Brown from LexisNexis for making this video possible. I want to thank the panel that came together and supported us and shared unreservedly all of their lessons learned, their successes, their failures, their concerns, their emerging risks, of which most I have shared with you here. And I trust that this will be use, and I trust that you will find it useful. And I'm leaving you with my contact details should you, by any chance, want to discuss with me, share with me, and we will make this information available again. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 is uncharted waters, and leaders are looking for strategies to protect the employees, reorganize the operations, and remain relevant. In the short term, really, that is about employee welfare and protecting jobs. And then over the next few weeks and months, it'll be about trying to understand, what the different scenarios for what the new normal is going to be post the current lockdown period. There's also a huge amount of information available on COVID-19. Unfortunately, this does include some fake news. So at LexisNexis, what we've done is we've created on our corporate website a COVID-19 resource center. This is available to the general public at no charge. There's no username and no password requirements, and it includes all the latest directives, media statements, and regulations that have been published on almost a daily basis. And then it really is up to each organization to see how they can assist. We've also understood that there are a lot of legal and compliance professionals that have typically relied on their print libraries. So for the month of April and during the lockdown period, we're opening up access to the full Lexis library online site. And this is to all legal professionals at no charge. Yeah, so really in conclusion, I think, each person, we now need to support those people on the front line. We need to stay at home, stay safe, and keep the social distancing. Thank you.